Have you ever done a wash and go, air dried your hair and it's still not dry hours later? Or you've put it in a bun and by the end of the day the bun is still damp? Well, this is what I mean by water is damaging your hair. I know it sounds crazy, like,
how can water damage curly hair?
Curly hair absolutely thrives in water. True, but if you do not dry your hair properly, then you could end up with hair that looks like this. Hair is in its weakest state when it is wet. Your hair is like a sponge. When you apply water to it, the cuticles open up to let water in, and at this point, the hair temporarily breaks the hydro bonds to let the water in. Now, when your hair dries, this comes back together, and at that point, there is no damage happening. But when your hair stays open with the water in it for that extended amount of time, that is when the hair starts to see the negative effects of being wet for too long. Your hair can appear limp, it can look like the curl is stretched out, and it also may not return back to its normal self afterwards. This is what we call hydro fatigue, and I'm sure you've probably heard of this term if you are immersed in the curly girl community. If not, it basically means your hair is over moisturized. So hydro fatigue can actually cause breakage, and you will notice this because when you go to detangle your hair, you will see short hairs breaking off your hair instead of the full hair shed. Full hair strands coming out is perfectly normal. That is just normal hair fall. But if your hair breaks off in little pieces, then you know that there is some sort of problem with breakage in your hair. If you are already experiencing some of this with your hair, then what should you do? Well, the first thing you can do is trim your hair regularly. That is going to combat some of the breakage problems that you are having. The second thing you can also do is seek professional help. Go to a specialist trichologist, someone who's going to take a deeper look at your hair and your hair care concerns, and they will be able to advise you how to look after your hair a little bit better. The next thing you can do at home is also you can use a light protein treatment. So proteins will actually balance out the moisture in the hair, and it will repair some of those broken bonds that have occurred and fill in some of those gaps. So you want to do a light protein treatment. You can do this monthly or you can do this every other week. It's completely up to you. At the moment, I'm doing these every other week because I've neglected these and I haven't seen any negative side effects of doing it this way. The next thing you want to do is when you are doing any wash day styling or styling throughout the week, that you make sure your hair is fully dry on that day. So now we're going to get on to how to actually prevent this from happening in the first place. Again, hair growth fatigue is not something that happens on a one-off occasion. It happens over time. So if you are consistently leaving your hair in a wet or damp state for a number of days and you do this regularly throughout your wash days, then this is when it can happen. It's not just going to happen on a one-off occasion. So in order to prevent this, again, as I mentioned, dry your hair on wash day. Make sure you're not going to bed with wet hair or damp hair. Make sure your styles are completely 100% dry on the day that you do them. The second thing you can do to enhance this process is use a diffuser. I have been sent a really nice one by Bellissima, and it is a nice handheld diffuser for curly girls. So that really works for me when I'm doing a wash and go. It can be really time consuming to diffuse your hair, but again, just put a little bit more effort into it and you will see the benefits of combating this problem. The next thing you also want to focus on is not leaving it late on wash day when you are washing your hair and styling your hair. The earlier in the day that you do this, and if you choose to air dry, the more time you will have to air dry throughout the day, as opposed to leaving it to the evening and then you're letting your hair dry and you're relying on a couple of hours before you go to bed for your hair to actually be dry. It's not going to happen unless you maybe don't style on that day and you just put the little amount of products in it and it dries really quickly. The next thing you can also do is you can avoid heavy products such as gels or creams. These products usually take a little bit longer to dry, especially if you have a lot more hair or you are a little bit more heavy-handed, you have thick hair, your hair needs a lot of product, then opt for lighter products, water-based, maybe sprays or lighter gels. Or alternatively, you could choose to style the next day as opposed to the same day. The final thing that you can do also to protect this happening is protective style on blow dried hair or damp hair, not wet hair. If you are somebody who likes to do twists or braids, braid outs, anything like that, cane rows, make sure your hair is properly dry before you actually style it, or again just make sure it is very close to being dry, damp at the worst, and definitely not wet, because going to bed with wet twists, wet braids is definitely going to add to this issue of breakage and water damaging your hair. Hope you've enjoyed this video. Subscribe to the channel to see more like this, and I will see you in the next video.